All right, let's dive into something pretty fascinating today. We're taking a closer look at Jay Shetty's On Purpose podcast.
Oh, yeah, he's really making waves. From monk to motivational speaker, and now a hugely popular podcast host.
It's quite a journey, right? And that unique background really colors his approach. But before we get into that, what do you think is the main draw for listeners?
I think a lot of it is that he takes this, ancient wisdom
Mhm.
and finds a way to make it actually relevant to everyday life. Like he's not just up there chanting mantras.
More like how to deal with your inbox and your in-laws,
Yeah.
using those same principles.
Exactly. He bridges that gap. You could be dealing with stress at work, feeling lost in your relationship, or just generally struggling to figure out what you're doing with your life.
May he's got something for that.
He tries to. He weaves those ancient concepts into practical steps, things you can actually do. Like mindfulness, he'll talk about it not just for relaxation, but for better focus at work or even communicating better in your relationships.
So it's about taking these big, sometimes abstract ideas
Mm.
and grounding them.
Making them useful, yeah. Which is probably why he's resonated with such a diverse audience. When I was going through all the material for this deep dive, a few main themes kept popping up.
Can you break those down for us?
Sure. I'd say the core of the podcast revolves around self-awareness and personal growth. Then there's a lot on mindfulness and mental health, of course, relationships and love.
Seems pretty comprehensive so far.
And the big one, success and purpose. He really tries to equip you with tools to navigate, well, pretty much all the ups and downs life throws at you, whether that's figuring out your career or building stronger bonds with people.
A toolkit for life, sort of.
Yeah, I like that. And it's not just vague advice either. He'll get into specifics, like with mindfulness and mental health, he'll actually walk you through techniques like breathing exercises or guided meditations.
So not just meditate, but how to meditate.
Yeah, he breaks it down, makes it feel accessible even if you've never tried it before. And then with relationships, he emphasizes this thing about active listening. Sounds basic, but
We're all glued to our phones, half the time not even making eye contact.
that's his point. Put the phone down, actually be present in the conversation. It can make a world of difference, and not just romantically, with anyone you care about.
Family, friends, even at work, I bet.
He touches on all those, building that supportive community, realizing how crucial those connections are for, our overall well-being.
It's not just about achieving stuff, it's about who you're with along the way. Speaking of achieving stuff, though, we can't ignore the guest list on this podcast. He's had Will Smith, Alicia Keys, Dr. Joe Dispenza, even Eckhart Tolle.
It's impressive, right? And I think that's a big part of the appeal. It's not just Shetty talking at you. It's a conversation.
Like we're getting to eavesdrop on these incredible minds.
Exactly. You get insights from successful people from so many different walks of life. Athletes, artists, spiritual teachers, entrepreneurs. It broadens the perspective, shows how those same principles can be applied in totally different contexts.
Must be pretty inspiring for listeners to hear those stories.
I think so. It's like, if they can do it, maybe I can too, right? And it's not all about success in the traditional sense either. It's about how they've built with their own struggles, what they've learned along the way. It makes it relatable, even coming from these big names.
So we've got this unique blend of ancient wisdom made practical and then amplified by these conversations with people who actually, walk the walk. But what about the impact? Does it actually resonate with the listeners, or is it just hype?
It's definitely resonating. On Purpose consistently ranks up there with the top personal development and health podcasts globally. And it's not just about downloads, it's about how this is impacting people's lives. One of the articles I read even shared a story about this listener. They were going through a really rough patch, and they said listening to Shetty kind of gave them that clarity, that sense of direction when they felt totally lost.
So it's actually helping people navigate real life stuff.
Yeah, it's not just feel-good fluff. He gives you things to actually try. Like, one that stuck with me was this emphasis on setting intentions. Starting your day with a clear purpose, even if it's super simple.
Like, don't burn the toast. Kind of simple.
Oh, maybe not that simple. More like, today I'm going to be kind to myself, or today I'm going to really be present when I'm talking to people.
So it's about being more mindful, not just letting the day run you over.
Right, you're taking control. He also talks about creating morning routines to set yourself up for success. Could be meditation, journaling, even just taking a few moments to appreciate the quiet before the chaos hits.
Morning routines, huh? Always struggled with those. Like the intention is there, but then life happens.
He gets that. He's big on starting small. Don't try to change everything overnight, just one tiny thing at a time.
Baby steps.
Exactly. Add 5 minutes of meditation or write down 3 things you're grateful for. Once that sticks, you can add more.
Build up that momentum instead of getting overwhelmed right off the bat.
And he really stresses self-compassion, like some days you're going to fall off the wagon. Don't beat yourself up, just acknowledge it and start fresh the next day.
Progress, not perfection.
That's the key. Another thing that resonated with me, his advice on journaling. Not just venting your feelings, but using it as a tool, for self-discovery.
I've tried journaling, but it always feels like I'm just rehashing the same stuff.
He suggests prompts or questions to guide you, like, what am I grateful for today? Or what challenges am I facing? What lessons have I learned? What are my goals?
It's like having that conversation with yourself, but on paper.
And when you write it down, it can help you gain clarity, see patterns in your thinking, work through those emotions.
I'd like to see how that'd be helpful. Makes it more focused.
And you can track your progress over time, which is pretty cool. See how far you've come. Now, relationships are a big focus for Shetty, and I'm curious, since he's married himself, what kind of insights he brings to that.
Well, from what I gathered, communication is huge for him. Not just talking at someone, but really listening, trying to grasp their perspective.
Empathy, right. Putting yourself in their shoes.
Easy to forget that when we're all wrapped up in our own stuff.
He talks about boundaries, too. Not building walls, but communicating your needs clearly, respectfully, and being okay with saying no sometimes.
Boundaries are tough, though, especially with people you're close to.
He's all about being assertive, not aggressive. Stating your needs calmly, without blaming the other person, and compromise is key, finding solutions that work for both of you.
That balance, respecting yourself while respecting the other person.
It's a dance, for sure. He also emphasizes quality time, making an effort to keep that spark alive. Could be trying new things together, date nights, or even just taking a moment to appreciate each other.
It's easy to let those things slide when life gets hectic.
It happens, but he reminds us relationships need attention, they need nurturing. It's not magic.
You got to put in the work. Now, beyond personal growth in relationships, Shetty's big on purpose. What's his take on that whole finding your purpose thing?
He believes it's not something you find, it's something you create. Aligning your actions with your values, using your talents and passions to make a difference.
So it's not necessarily about having this grand world-changing mission.
It can be, but it can also be about finding meaning in the everyday, volunteering, being a supportive friend, just bringing kindness into the world.
Making your corner of the world a bit brighter.
Exactly. And he's all about not fearing failure. He actually sees it as essential. Embrace those mistakes, learn from them, and keep going.
It's about having that growth mindset. Challenges are just opportunities to level up.
And be patient with yourself. Building a meaningful life takes time. There'll be setbacks, but the key is to keep learning, keep growing.
Becoming the best version of yourself. Now, all this is inspiring, but sometimes this self-help stuff can feel a bit too positive, almost unrealistic. Did you get that sense at all?
Yeah.
There's definitely a focus on the positive, which can be motivating. But it's important to acknowledge that life's not always sunshine and rainbows.
So it's not about ignoring the hard stuff.
He does talk about self-care, prioritizing your well-being, and that includes processing the tough emotions and seeking support when you need it.
It's about having that balance.
Yeah,
Being realistic, but hopeful.
exactly. And being authentic. You don't have to pretend to be happy all the time.
That whole good vibes only thing can get a bit toxic.
For sure. Another thing to watch out for, especially with social media, is that comparison trap. It's easy to look at other people's perfectly curated lives and feel inadequate.
Oh yeah, the highlight reel versus reality.
Right. Don't compare your behind the scenes to someone else's carefully crafted presentation. Focus on your own journey.
Run your own race.
Absolutely. We're all on our own paths with our own challenges and triumphs. Now, shifting gears a bit, some people find Shetty's style a bit too much, like overly enthusiastic.
A bit preachy, maybe.
He's definitely high energy, super positive. But whether that works for you is personal preference.
Some people find it motivating, others might find it grating.
Exactly. Find what resonates with you. So after this deep dive, what are your main takeaways?
I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Well, first, remember that no single source of information is the be-all and end-all. Be critical, take what works for you, leave the rest.
Be your own filter.
And remember, growth is a journey, not a destination. There's no quick fix.
Keep learning, keep experimenting.
And don't underestimate the power of the simple things. Kindness, compassion, connection. That's where it's at.
Beautifully put. Okay, so we're back, and I think it's time to get a little bit more critical. We've been pretty positive about Jay Shetty, and on purpose.
Yeah, we've highlighted the good stuff, but like with anything, there's always another side to the coin.
And especially in this self-help world, you got to be careful, right? Not everything works for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. It's so important to approach this stuff with, a critical eye. What works for one person might totally backfire for someone else, and circumstances matter.
Like we talked about how Shetty simplifies things, makes them accessible. But is there a danger of oversimplifying? Life's messy.
Oh, for sure. It's like trying to fix a jet engine with a screwdriver. Sometimes you need more specialized tools. Listeners need to remember, adapt the advice to their own situation.
Don't just blindly follow any one guru, no matter how popular they are.
And on that note, we talked about Shetty's positivity, which can be great, but too much of anything can be, well, toxic.
Toxic positivity, is that what they call it?
Yeah, basically pushing down those negative emotions, trying to be upbeat all the time. That's not healthy. You got to acknowledge the full spectrum, even the tough stuff.
So it's not about denying the negative, it's about finding that balance.
Exactly. Be real, be authentic. You're allowed to have a bad day. You're allowed to feel those feelings.
And something else that came up for me, especially in the age of social media, is that comparison trap.
Oh, it's so easy to fall into that. You see these perfect lives online, and you start feeling like you're not enough.
But it's all curated, right? It's the highlight reel, not the behind the scenes.
Exactly. Don't compare your bloopers to someone else's finished product. Focus on your path.
Yeah, run your own race. Now, even with all that said, Shetty's clearly connecting with a lot of people. On purpose is huge. What do you think it is about his approach that works?
I think a lot of it is that he seems genuine. You feel like he actually cares about helping people.
Like he's speaking from the heart, not just reading a script.
And he's relatable. He doesn't talk over people's heads. He uses stories, examples, things everyone can understand.
Makes it feel less intimidating, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So as we wrap this up, what are your final thoughts for our listeners?
A few things. First, don't take anything as gospel, even from someone as popular as Shetty. Be critical, think for yourself.
Do your own research, try things out, see what works for you.
And remember, it's a journey, not a race. Personal growth takes time. Be patient. Be kind to yourself.
And maybe most importantly, don't overthink it. Sometimes the simplest things are the most powerful. Kindness, compassion, connection.
Those are the foundations.
Well said. That about wraps it up for our deep dive into On Purpose. Hope you enjoyed it.
And who knows, maybe it sparked something for you. Remember, the journey starts within.
Take care, everyone, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.